This is Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing with Dr. Denise Johnson, a show dedicated to the integration of spirituality, faith, mental health, and emotional wellness. I believe where your spirit leads, your emotions, power, and destiny will follow. And welcome to the show, everyone. You are listening to Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing, and I am your host, Christian emotional wellness expert and licensed mental health professional, Dr. Denise Johnson. And the exciting topic for today's show is From Pain to Peace, Mental Health Strategies to Heal Your Spirit. And my wonderful guest is Nathalie Ellis. Nathalie D. Ellis is a licensed professional counselor and a national certified counselor. She's also certified as a professional clinical supervisor. She holds a Master's of Arts in Professional Counseling from Argosy University in Atlanta that she earned in the year 2000. She has extensive and intensive training in working with children, adolescents, adults, couples, and families who have issues with intense trauma, emotional disturbance, behavioral issues, and relationship conflicts. Miss Nathalie is trained in eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, which is abbreviated EMDR, and the Gottman Method Level 1 couple therapy. She is certified in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy and as a juvenile sex offender counselor. The therapy approaches that she works with include cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, psychodynamic therapy, family systems therapy, couples and relationships therapy, and art and play therapy. Currently, she has a private practice called Esteem Counseling and Consulting Services in Decatur, Georgia, where she has been servicing clients since 2012. She provides therapy, training, clinical supervision, consultation, and workshops. Her mission is to ensure individuals have access to mental health services and resources. Well, Miss Nathalie, you have a wonderful resume and wonderful credentials, and it is my absolute delight and joy and honor to have you on the show with me today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Denise. I'm so excited to be here and talk about this wonderful topic. It's so important. So thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm just going to start with the first question, which is, can you tell us some about your personal history?
Sure. I was originally born in Haiti, Port-au-Prince. We moved to the United States. Myself and my parents moved to the United States in 1981. Lived in Boston first up north, and then made our way to Georgia in 88. So we've been in the Dirty South since 1988. Where I graduated from high school and then got my undergrad at Georgia State, and then pursued my master's degree at Argosy University, where I've been a master's level clinician and licensed since 2001.
Excellent, excellent. And can you tell us some about your spiritual history?
Yeah, growing up in a Haitian household, I'm pretty much raised Catholic, which I still practice. I'm going to a Catholic church.
And how does your personal history and your spiritual history make you who you are today, and how do they contribute to what you're doing today?
Yeah, definitely my personal history in terms of my background, being Haitian, my parents, my growing up, my childhood experiences, as well as my faith. All that definitely contributed to who I am, in that through my experiences, I've allowed to see the importance of me having to put trust in either my home, my parents, my family, as well as in a higher power, as well as in God, and being able to trust that once I've done my part, then all I can do is trust that everything else will fall in line. And at times that happens, and at times it doesn't. And just, again, having faith in whatever I have or whatever happens, what does that mean for me?
Yes.
And it's different for everybody.
Yes.
And so all that has kind of shaped of who I am in terms of me in this field of mental health. Because, again, our mindset, based on our experiences, based on our genetic makeup, based on all the things that we go through, kind of creates who we are. And so helping people kind of make those type of connections, it's very important for me, for them to understand.
Yes. Now, was there a particular event that made you want to be a professional counselor per se?
Well, you know what? I can't really say if there's a particular event. My first love was law. I wanted to be a lawyer like Perry Mason and Matlock. So that was my first thing, a criminal defense attorney like Perry Mason and Matlock. And then at some point I realized, they're defense attorneys, so they're defending sometimes maybe criminals. And let me see if I can do something different. So I recall that being a shift for me.
Okay.
Being able to still help all individuals, but not necessarily in that way. But one thing I will say with my experiences, even in my home, I am the middle child.
Okay.
I have two brothers.
All right.
I do tend to be the listening ear for everyone.
Okay.
So people, since I was a child, people tend to come to me and talk, even strangers. And so I think that having come so naturally to me has kind of led me to this field, because I've known since before high school what I've wanted to do. And I've kind of stuck with it, and it's kind of been a great mission for me.
That is
I think more so just the experience of being that listening ear to someone and providing that comfort has kind of led to that path.
Excellent. All right, then. So why do you call your practice Esteem Counseling and Consulting?
Okay. Esteem is an acronym, actually. So not only because it stands for esteem in terms of how we see ourselves or how we see things, so esteem in terms of self-esteem, how we see ourselves. Esteem is an acronym that stands for empower, self, through enrichment, education, motivation.
Excellent. Excellent.
Again, that's the mission. That's the purpose.
Yes. And how do those components help people find peace?
Well, I believe it's important to empower individuals. In order to find peace, you got to empower. You got to know yourself.
Yes.
And in order to know yourself, there has to be a level of enrichment in terms of things you like to do, so you know what you like and don't like. There has to be some level of education, in terms of educating and knowing more about yourself. And then there has to be that motivation. And so this acronym of this is kind of the recipe for me of how I help people go through whatever they're going through to get to peace.
I love that. I love that because the focus seems to be on empowerment and self-awareness.
Yes, self-awareness. Very key.
Yes, because a lot of people seem to have the fear that going to counseling means that they're crazy or they're sick. And even though problems may be the thing that make people come initially, that's not usually where the empowerment comes. It's through learning yourself and awareness. So I love that acronym. That's great. Perfect. All right, then my next question is pain universal, and why?
Yes, I do believe it's universal. It could be defined differently, but pain is universal because pain, to some extent, there's emotional pain as well as physical pain. Yeah. And I think everyone can relate to either emotional pain and physical pain. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing with pain. How we perceive it can be different depending on, again, our upbringing and our experiences. However, it is something concretely that everyone does experience.
Yes. I so wholeheartedly agree. I think the other reason why there's pain is because, as hard as we try, life is not perfect. People aren't perfect, and we're not perfect. Mm-hmm. And when all of these imperfections meet up with one another, unfortunately, they do generate disappointment, sorrow, betrayal, and whatever else goes along with things not being the way we wish or like them to be.
Definitely. That's a very, very good point. So, yes, just life in itself, and that's something I do talk a lot with clients about, because once we kind of go through that healing, it's not about that things will be okay from this point on, because as long as we're living, we're going to experience good things, great things, and being on the lookout for those things. But then we experience negative things as well. you know. And like you said, the negative things can be physically things that we feel, that we experience in terms of physical hurts, accidents, and that sort. Or it could definitely be emotional pain in terms of relationships and things of that sort as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And
hunger. I mean, hunger is a big thing in this world, you know, hunger and all this stuff with human trafficking. I mean, there's a lot of people experiencing lots and lots of hurt. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing the question makes me think about is, you know, I think from a spiritual perspective, if I go back to the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, and once we made the wrong choice as a species, our lives also became filled with pain. So I think it's a product of the fall. And then my other thought about it is that I think most people don't understand that pain actually can be the vehicle for your deliverance and your empowerment, because most of us better ourselves or look for help or look for change in response to our pain. And if we didn't have that pain, we may not be as good or as accomplished or trying to look for different answers. We might be content with where we were if it wasn't for the pain.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And just yesterday I had a client. Her son was in a car accident. He was hit by a car.
Oh, boy.
And she said it was, of course, one of her worst experiences. But out of that, because he survived and he's okay, just her appreciation and gratitude.
Yes.
You know, and so, yes, and again, it depends on our mindset, what we choose to focus on. Because I definitely choose to focus on the fact that this happened, the accident happened, and here I am now with whatever state that it left me, or the good things of it.
Yes.
And so that's definitely that's a good point in terms of from pain we could grow and appreciate the opposite of it.
Excellent. Excellent. So how is pain a problem?
Okay. Pain is a problem in many senses, and so you have a lot of people who suffer with chronic pain, interestingly enough, you know, and so, I mean, society, at least in the U.S., pain medication is something that's on the rise, been on the rise for a very long time, so so chronic pain, physical pain is something that people suffer with, you know, and there's plenty of diseases or plenty of diagnoses for that. For that, how people experience those type of physical pain, and then that in itself could lead to mental pain, and then mental pain could lead to physical pain too. And so it's interesting how all that works, because again,
interconnected. Mm-hmm.
It's all interconnected, and which one comes first? Sometimes it's hard to tell, because I tell clients, you know, when we carry stress for a long time, it weighs on the body, and it creates diseases in the body.
Yes.
And now you have chronic headaches, you have chronic stomach, you got all this stuff, but you got a lot of stuff you've been holding on for years also.
Right.
You know, that could have led to all that stuff. You know, so sometimes who knows which comes first, but it's definitely all interconnected. And in order to heal, we have to understand all those components.
Yes.
And then with pain too, developmentally, when you have people who suffer with trauma, you know, let's take a young child, even at embryo, if a mother is going through her own suffering, her cortisol and the things that she's giving off and passing on to the baby creates a growth. It stunts the growth of the baby in their brain, and then in kids or in newborns who experience certain types of trauma, it impacts their brain development. So yet pain, physical or emotional, is definitely detrimental developmentally as well. And of course it impacts our relationships, how we relate to others, because if I'm in pain and I hurt, whether it's emotionally or physically, depending on where I am in my healing process, I hurt people too.
Right.
Hurt people.
Yeah.
And then, of course, all this relates in terms of spiritual being and, you know, relationship with the higher power too. You know, because again, to me, bottom line with the spirituality part is to be in faith. And be faithful is something that's very difficult, because we see the physical, we see what's going on in the present, what we're feeling, what we're noticing, what we're seeing in the present moment. And now to be in faith is to see beyond that, or to understand beyond that. Sometimes that's very difficult for people to do.
Yes.
So pain impacts all those aspects.
Yes. And a lot of times some people see their pain as an indication to them that God is not with them. And the reality is that really may not be true, because God does promise that he will use all things together for our good. If we have the perspective and the heart to see.
That's a good point. It's funny. I talk about. I'm not a Christian counselor at all, but I do have my own faith, and I do let people know I'm not a Christian counselor, but I do share some experiences from my own experiences. So I talk about the story of the guy who was shipwrecked in the middle of the ocean, and he's asking God, send me a ship, send me send me help. So he's looking for a miracle from God.
Right.
Okay, and so then one ship comes, a little bitty boat comes and says, hey, man, you need help? He's like, no, I'm waiting for a miracle from God. Okay, and the guy left, and another boat came. Oh, no, a bigger boat came, but no, I'm waiting for a miracle from God. And the third boat, bigger boat, no, I'm waiting for a miracle.
Right.
And so then, of course, he drowned. He came to God and says, God, why have you forsaken me? I asked you for a miracle. You didn't send me one. And God said, I sent you 3.
Yes.
And you just didn't take it. You just didn't see it. Again, sometimes with Christianity, because it's so restrictive at times, people are expecting to see something, one thing.
Yes.
But then when that happens, it blinds everything else.
Right.
When, like you said, it's in awe. Everything and anything could potentially be a miracle, could potentially be help from God.
Yes.
It depends on how we want to see it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very well said. Well, I think this is an excellent place for a break. Please join us when we return, when my guest, Nathalie Ellis, founder of Esteem Counseling Services, will talk more about mental health strategies to heal your spirit. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing, and I am your host, Christian emotional wellness expert, Dr. Denise Johnson. And the topic for today's show is From Pain to Peace, Mental Health Strategies to Heal Your Spirit. And my guest is Nathalie Ellis, founder of Esteem Counseling Services. All right. My next question is, how do most people deal with their pain, and is that typically helpful?
And so let's take, again, physical pain and emotional pain, because those are different in different aspects, but intercorrelated too. Physically, a lot of people do take pain medication, which, again, is why statistically there's a rise in pain medication. And there's also a rise in drug abuse and substance abuse, because, again, people do use illegal drugs and substances, alcoholism, to cope, not only to cope with emotional pain, but to cope with physical pain as well. So a lot of people are dealing with their pain in unhealthy manners. Those are definitely unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with the pain. So that's one aspect. And emotionally, but in the same way, people medication, psychotropic medication, is also on the rise. People dealing with depression, hurt, emotional hurt. They're seeing psychiatrists, so a lot of psychotropic medication is also on the rise. And it's happening even younger with younger kids. So that's something else of ways that people are coping with it. And again, also other unhealthy ways, substance abuse. A lot of people, unfortunately, are dealing with pain, self-hurt, whether it's self-harming, obesity, eating disorders, or so many different ways. And then, unfortunately, these last few weeks, that 10-year-old little girl who committed suicide, and suicide is just another way people are trying to deal with their hurt and pain. And so there's a lot of unhealthy ways that people are dealing with their hurt and pain, which is not helpful. But there's also healthy ways.
Excellent. One of the things that I guess I've noticed over the years is that most of us don't like pain. And So when we are faced with pain, usually we try to take the easy way out and find anything that we can grab onto to try to help us feel better. And we do that even if that thing that we grab onto we know is not good for us. Like you were talking about earlier, the substance abuse or taking pills all the time and different things. But I see the common denominator to be is that people are afraid to deal with their pain and to face their pain directly. They would rather find a way to try to make it go away quickly.
Very good point. Yes.
Right? And a lot of those methods are usually self-destructive. They usually will go for self-destructive methods because those are usually quick and easy.
Yes.
Yes. Right? At least in the beginning.
Right. And so definitely, like you said, because it's so uncomfortable for people and so much, they're trying to find the quickest way to get rid of it or the easiest way to get rid of it. And and most of the time those are self-destructive. Or people do a lot of avoidance.
Yes.
Not coping, trying to keep it in the back of their head. That's a lot of the other things that I talk about with people. In order to heal, we have to go through the hurt.
Yeah.
We have to relive it and deal with it.
Right.
Pretending it doesn't happen, hiding it, or trying to block it or putting it in a box in our brain. Again, it just it doesn't make it go away. It just kind of keeps it in the body. And so the other way that I help people understand how the connection from emotional to physical, because when it keeps it in the body, the thing about, again, life is, okay, this thing happens today. We put it in the box inside of our body. And one way that I describe it, I say our body is kind of like a trash can. Every day we experience things, and we have to be able to release those things out. But most of the time we kind of hold on to things. Yeah. And so that trash can is getting bigger because guess what? There's going to be something else. There's going to be great things that's happening, but along the way there's going to be a lot of other not so good things that's happening, and that's all going into that trash can, going into the trash can. So guess what? The trash can is getting bigger. And when we haven't properly released and worked through these things, it's just getting bigger, getting bigger, and getting bigger. Eventually it will explode. Yeah. And so it's so critical to work through it and face it and deal with it. Yes. Although it's going to be painful, and that leads to that spiritual piece, because that's where faith comes in. Yes. Because you have to just have faith into that process that once you go through that, you'll be okay. Yes. Yeah. But you got to go through that storm. You got to kind of face and deal with it. Excellent. And then the second thing that I notice that people do when they're in pain is that they act out. And quite often when I see somebody behaving badly, the first thing I usually ask myself is, I wonder where their pain is. Yes. Or I wonder what the pain is that's stimulating them to do this behavior. Yes. Because people just don't act bad for no reason, or they don't act out or act aggressively or act rudely for no reason. Exactly. Usually they're acting out their pain and their trauma, in the best way that they know how in that moment. Definitely. That's definitely one of the curses of being, at least for me, a therapist, is my ability to empathize, whatever the situation is with whomever. Because when somebody does something, yes, it's not okay. So definitely not condoning the behavior, but then let's look beyond what led them to this behavior. What was going on? Right. Because, again, to just criminalize or to just consequent is sometimes not enough. When there could be something deeper than that. Right. And so, being able to see where did that come from. And most of the time, many times, once you get, the background and the history, okay, this kind of makes sense. Yes, no matter how distorted it is, or irrational, but based on where you're coming from, it makes sense. It always makes sense. Yes, it does. It does. Mm-hmm. It does. All right, then. And so helping change that mindset, in order to create the healing. Yes, and you're so right, because a lot of times, until we take a good history when we're working with someone, the client themselves may not have put together how their history contributes to how they're acting right now. Definitely. No, right? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So I'm a strong believer in going back to the beginning. Yes. And so with every client, no matter how old they are, I listen to everything, and I listen, and I go back to the beginning. And so as they're giving me things of what's happening currently and how they're handling things, and I would say, do you understand where some of that is coming from? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no, and then I can connect, and I make the connection for them.
Yes.
Help them see the connections in terms of, well, you noticed when you told me about this. What do you think about this in relation to what's going on with you now?
Yes.
And that relates.
Yes.
And so, yes, it's so important to help them make those connections because, again, sometimes we do things so unconsciously.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. What are some indications when people may need assistance in managing their pain?
Definitely, if it's something that's going on consistently and on a daily basis,
right,
and it's causing distress,
yes,
and it's impairing functioning.
Yes.
If it's impairing functioning in terms of physical pain that's impairing functioning, definitely it's important to seek a doctor, medical doctor. And then if, in order to cope with it, there needs to be a mental health professional as well. Definitely seek those things. And so I tell people whenever your situation starts to impact functioning, starts to impact your emotional health, then it's okay to seek help.
Right.
It's okay to seek support.
Right.
To kind of work through these things.
Right.
And so, yeah, helping people recognize when things are not functioning well and there's distress.
Yes, I agree.
In terms of physical distress as well as just emotional distress.
Yes. Excellent. And a lot of times people don't realize that, at the very basic level in terms of not functioning well, their appetite may be disturbed, their sleeping may be disturbed. They may not be able to think as clearly as they used to, or they find that they change their minds a lot, or if they're extremely fearful about things. And, these basic things usually are the things that undergird them not functioning to the capacity that they had.
Definitely. Looking at, in terms of your daily functioning, are you able to get up to go to work?
Yes.
Are you finding yourself sleeping more?
Yes.
Or not sleeping enough? Yes.
Exactly.
Are you having a hard time concentrating?
Yes.
Are you constantly irritable? Are you irritable at everyone?
Yes.
Irritability.
Yes, and you don't have the same tolerance. Mm-hmm. You don't have the same tolerance level that you used to.
Definitely not. You're finding yourself getting mad at everything, or every little thing is irritating you or annoying you.
Right.
And going back to that trash can analogy that I tell people is, once that trash can, just like if the cup becomes full, guess what? It doesn't matter what you try to put in, no matter how small it is, it can't come in anymore.
Right.
And so when our tolerance levels for helping people see, that's why the smallest thing, when it's happening at this point, you can't take it anymore because your cup is already full. You're already at your capacity, and you haven't let go of that trash, or you haven't thrown it away, or you haven't released anything yet. And so that's important.
Right.
Yeah, because at some point it becomes very difficult to just cope with the daily living things that you're used to doing. It becomes very difficult because you've got too much going on emotionally, physically. That's creating a lot of stress and distress.
Yes. So the next thing I wanted to ask you, and it's actually going to be in two parts. I would like to ask in general how counseling and psychotherapy are helpful. And then part two of that, since you are trained in so many different types of therapeutic techniques, I'd like to ask you about each one of those in terms of what it is, what type of clients it seems to work best with, and then how is it helpful. So I'll start first with how in general does therapy help, and then I'll ask more specifically about the different techniques that you know about.
Sure. Therapy is helpful, or counseling, whichever terminology helps people be comfortable. These are definitely professionals who are trained in mental health, understanding different mental health disorders and understanding different diagnoses and having skill set to help people kind of work through some of those diagnoses. And so I tell people each of us don't know everything, so it's important to seek help. So if you're having a hard time with school, you seek a teacher or you seek a tutor that could help you with whatever that topic is. And so seeking people and seeking support from the professionals that have that. And with counseling, it's, the key in the counseling process is to help people, again, become more self-aware in terms of what's going on with them, in terms of their emotional pain.
Yes.
And helping them understand maybe where some of that stuff is coming from, becoming more aware of all the aspects of it. And so I talk to people about understanding your thinking process, where your mindset, your beliefs, understanding your beliefs, your values, how you see things, your perceptions. So all those things is your thinking, and understanding emotionally how you're feeling.
Yes.
So having some understanding in terms of your emotions. I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm irritated, I'm hurt, I'm abandoned. understanding all these emotions, having some understanding of that, and then also relating it to physical sensations too. Okay,
yes.
I'm anxious. Now my stomach is hurting. Now my head is hurting. Right, helping people understand that aspect, and then of course how that relates to our actions. Okay,
right.
If I'm thinking something, I feel it in my body or in my emotions, and then it creates an action.
Yes.
And so part of that awareness of counselor help does, part of what counselor help does is help people find those type of awareness in terms of how it all relates. Our thinking, our feelings, and our actions.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about interventions, there has to be some level of mindfulness with these things so that we could now provide some interventions of where do we need to start to make some shift, make some change.
Yes.
And so counselor or psychotherapy, and there's different types of models of therapy. There's different types of things out there depending on the need, the client's needs, and where what the client is going through. That could help with that.
Yes, excellent. And the other thing that this question reminds me of is that people really are very resilient. And what I mean by that is if they just would take the time to face things and think about things and talk about things, most people do have the capacity to get better. There's something about talking and sharing also with someone that seems to speed up the emotional healing process.
Yes.
Two people whose hearts are knit together in one accord, trying to work on something or bring about good or change. It's very powerful, very powerful for change and healing.
Definitely.
Excellent.
But, part of it, like you said, it's being okay in the moment to at least experience that pain and be okay with it. Yes. I remember a few years ago I started having panic attacks on the highway. Because I had experienced not even an accident. I was close to experiencing an accident, but the way my body reacted was, every time I get on this highway.
Yes, something's going on.
Something going on. So for a period of time, I started having these panic attacks. And, of course, when it's the first time it happened, I was unaware. I had plenty of clients who had panic attacks. They would explain it to me.
Right.
And so then I was on the highway, and I was like, oh, my God, this is what they mean. My heart was beating fast. I was hot. It felt like I was out of breath. And so I had to slowly get off the road. And then, like I said, every time after that I got on the highway, the connection was I'm going to have a panic attack.
Okay.
And I did, right? And so, again, because that became so uncomfortable for me, I stopped getting on the highway. I'm like, you know what? I could feel it coming. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But, again, the only way I had to heal through that was to go through it because avoidance creates comfortability. You've avoided it for so long. You know what? One thing I do tell clients is avoiding something doesn't mean it goes away. It's still there.
Right.
So 20 years later, even if I got back on that highway, I would still experience this, which is what people then tell me. It's as if it just happened. Yeah, because putting it away doesn't make you deal with it. The emotions. The thing about trauma or traumatic experiences, we feel it in every part of our senses. The smell, the hearing, the sight, the taste, every part of our body, we feel that experience. And so, in the moment, we could take it out of our mind, but our body remembers it. And so when we're back to it, our body's going to remember it again. And so the only way to kind of work through it is to kind of go through it again until we're at a place where we're now controlling the body. We're now controlling everything else and not it controlling us, per se. But you're absolutely right about resilience, which is why I love doing what I do, because I'm always so amazed with the clients that I have and the things that they've been through and for them to be here.
It really is an honor and a privilege to work with people through their life issues.
It is.
And I can't even explain it to people what an honor and a joy and a privilege it is. It just to see the strength of the human spirit.
Definitely.
Is just awesome.
It is awesome.
It is awesome. All right, so let me ask about the first therapy orientation, and I'm going to ask you, what is cognitive behavior therapy, and what types of clients is that good for, and then how does it help people?
Yes, the cognitive behavior therapy works with generally most clients to some extent because what it is, it's a basic, and many times we're using multiple models of therapy at a time. So with most clients, I'm using multiple things depending on what's going on in the session or what's going on in terms of their treatment overall. But cognitive behavior therapy cognitive is about challenging their mind, their thinking patterns. And so, again, as you're getting a history with the client, you get an understanding of how they see things, how they're thinking about things, and helping them understand that as well.
Okay.
And then once we have an understanding, okay, now how do we change that behavior? And so we do a lot of behavior charts, behavior plans in terms of ways to change or shift the behavior. Okay, so cognitive, that's simply what cognitive behavior is about. So it really works for everything because it's shifting a mindset and providing behavior strategies to change it, and then that in itself will change the behavior. We're changing a behavior.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. And I can also see that a lot of people probably don't know what their thinking processes are because if you've been doing something for such a long period of time, it becomes automatic to you.
It does.
And you don't even know what you're thinking. And so the cognitive, right? And so the cognitive therapy part of what it does, it helps the person slow down the thinking and try to be mindful of the thinking that is producing the result that they don't want, right?
Exactly. Perfect. And it's funny because usually after most sessions with my adult clients, and the majority of my clients are African American females. Mm-hmm. You know, and we as women have experienced a lot of things, and we as women have been taught that we have to be strong. And so these are a lot of women who are very strong women, but who carry a lot of weight. So their strength is really, really, really strong. They're really strong. They're carrying a lot. And interestingly enough, a lot of the work that I do is, you know what, I need you to identify common thinking patterns, common thoughts.
Yes.
And make a list of that. So that's usually the first assignment after I see them, to identify, take some time and think about, things you think about that are common thoughts. And then we have to identify if they're positive or negative. And what I say about that is it's very individualized. Because a thought could be okay for, positive for someone, but negative for somebody else. So identifying that thought, and then how does that thought make you feel? And so helping people start connecting their thinking to a emotional, and then also to a physical.
Well, I think this is an excellent place for a break. Please join us when we return, when my guest, Nathalie Ellis, founder of Esteem Counseling Services, will talk more about mental health strategies to heal your spirit. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing, and I am your host, Christian emotional wellness expert, Dr. Denise Johnson. And the topic for today's show is From Pain to Peace, Mental Health Strategies to Heal Your Spirit. And my guest is Nathalie Ellis, founder of Esteem Counseling Services.
One particular client, she says, I don't understand why I'm anxious all the time. I'm anxious all the time. And then as we talked more, her thinking pattern is, I'm not good enough. That's her thinking pattern.
That was the underlying thought.
Yes, that's the underlying thought. And that's constant. So she's constantly putting her position to be good enough, to be good enough, to be good enough.
Right.
In this sense of perfectionism. And so helping her see those connections, which is the work we're going to work through. So we started some of that even at the first session. So it gets straight to the point. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like, you have a need to be perfect.
Yes.
And where do you think that comes from? And then, because perfection doesn't exist, I could see how you could be anxious all the time. You could feel like you're going to fail.
Right. Excellent. And then the other point is that I don't think most people really understand how powerful the connection is between what you think and what you feel.
Yes.
You know, thinking actually precedes emotions most of the time. It is what you think about something that precipitates whatever that emotion is that comes up for you.
Yes, that comes up for you, exactly. And then at some point it becomes habit, but because this is something we are learning at embryo as infants. We were learning this very early on before we even have words to define it.
Yes.
And so, thinking, so feeling in terms of the emotional feeling, but also feeling in the body. Because the minute anxiety for most people, anxiety is headaches, stomach aches. It creates something in the body.
Yes, it does. It does.
So there's certain emotions that create certain things in the body.
You're
right.
Whether
it's tensing up, whether it's this. And so imagine when this is a constant.
Yes.
But then you get used to this. This is how my body is. I tend to be this way.
Right.
True. However, maybe this is the reason why some of this is this way. It could be different if we do the work.
Right. You're so right. So not only does the thought pattern provoke certain emotions, it also provokes certain processes in the body that are automatic. Certain hormones are released or not.
Yes.
You know, and different things happen when we think certain ways because our body and our mind and our emotions and our spirit, they are one.
They are one, connected, and then going back to that spirit again. Yes, all connected.
They are one. Excellent. All right. The next therapy orientation I want to talk with you about is dialectical behavior therapy. And I'm going to tell you, that's a mouthful. So I'm looking so forward to you explaining to us, what is dialectical behavior therapy?
So dialectical behavior therapy is a model that was created by Marshall Lelhan. And it worked a lot with borderline personality disorders.
All right.
People who have a history of cutting, so that's been helpful for those people. Dialectical means being able to see something multiple ways.
Okay.
And so part of what that theory is, the premise of that theory is things could be both good and bad.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
A lot of us want to see one or the other. That's what we're comfortable with. That's what we're taught most. It has to be this way or that way, this way or that way. And so dialectical therapy is a lot about helping people understand that something could be both good and bad at the same time.
Okay. All right.
So it's very that particular model. It's very there's a lot to it. There's a lot of skills training. So with that model, you're helping the individual kind of understanding their history and understanding themselves by doing certain types of skills training. So those trainings could be done individually, and it could be done in groups as well. So one of the biggest things in that dialectical behavior therapy is one of the things is like the 3 states of mind.
Yes.
Helping people understand the 3 states of mind.
Yes.
And so, whereas some people, functioning emotional mind. So imagine you have like I don't know how to describe it as a Venn diagram, but you have 2 circles that intercorrelate, that interconnect.
Yes.
Right. One of the circles say emotional, the other one emotional mind.
Okay.
The other one says rational mind.
Okay.
And then the connection between the two, or the connection between the two, is wise mind.
Yes.
Yes. A lot of people either function out of their emotion,
right,
or they function out of their rational mind, their thinking,
right.
And so again, part of that is helping people function out of the two. Being able to notice both sides, their emotion and as well as their. So that's called the wise mind.
Yes.
And so that particular model has a lot of different skills training in terms of helping people better understand themselves and being able to be on those seeing things more than just one way, and that something could potentially be more than just one way.
Right.
At the same time.
Right. So let me try to summarize what you said. So the dialectical behavior therapy, it seems to me that instead of people thinking it at one extreme or the other, I think that what you're saying is the model tries to help people find balance between 2 extremes. So we don't want to be all in emotion mind, and we don't want to be all in, I'm going to call it rational mind. We want wise mind to be somewhere in the middle that takes both into account at the same time, or aspects of both, right?
Yes, both aspects, exactly. Because the goal of DBT is to help people develop a life that they experience as worth living, and so helping people be their best self.
Okay.
And so a lot of things with DBT too. Again, DBT is very, there's a lot to it. It talks a lot about helping people just be okay with who they are, that they could be, you could be a good person who sometimes makes bad choices.
Right.
And again, that's the dialectical piece of it.
Yes, it is.
People want to see just one good person.
All good or all bad. When
all good or all bad.
Yeah, it's not like that. Right.
Brain's not like that. And so it talks about different thinking that we could help people see things differently in terms of being able to see those aspects.
Yes. And then the other thing about dialectical behavior therapy that I know of is that it's one of those what we call evidence-based treatments. So is the cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of research has been done on dialectical behavior therapy in terms of how it helps clinical populations. And I think one of the reasons why it's so good with people who are over-emotional, I'll just use that as a category so we don't have to be specific about diagnosis, but I think that the reason why it helps them is because they really do have skill deficits. For example, if you're over-emotional, most people who are over-emotional don't know how to self-soothe in a way that's therapeutic. They become overcome by their strong emotions, and they resort to a lot of those negative coping mechanisms that we were talking about a little bit earlier. But what DBT will do is it will teach you a specific coping mechanism when you feel, emotionally upset that you actually have to practice. So I know they have distress tolerance exercises, they have affect management exercises, they have exercises where you will practice your social skills,
emotional regulation.
They have exercises where you will practice your mindfulness. So it's a lot of skill building. And the literature has shown that if people learn and practice those very specific skills, it does have the ability to help them decrease their excessive emotionality and even self-injurious behavior where they're doing things like cutting themselves or doing other things that are very negative. The literature shows that if they practice these very concrete skills that DBT teaches them, they have the ability to get better.
Definitely.
I think it has really revolutionized treatment.
Well, we've run out of time for today, but I would like to invite you back next time for part 2 of From Pain to Peace, Mental Health Strategies to Heal Your Spirit, with Nathalie Ellis, founder of Esteem Counseling Services in Decatur, Georgia.
So if the audience wanted to contact you for more information, how would they be able to do that?
Definitely. They could always reach me by contacting me on my cell phone at 678-732-7269, 678-732-7269. They could reach me on my website, which is www.esteemcounselingservices.com, www.esteemcounselingservices.com. And I also have an Instagram where I talk about, again, just mental health stuff on a daily basis. Because, again, I do believe in educating the public about the importance of taking care of our health, and that includes our mental health, our whole self. And so my Instagram is Esteem Counseling Services.
Okay. And how do you spell esteem for the audience?
Esteem is ESTEEM.
Great. All right, then at the end of my show, I always ask my guests to either say a prayer or a blessing over the audience in relation to the things that we've spoken of today. And so I'm going to ask you to do that for me now.
Well, I pray that the audience was able to get something out of this segment, and I pray that the audience is able to kind of pay attention to themselves and notice if there is something that they feel that they need to work through and have the strength to seek the support and help that they need.
Excellent.
So if nothing else, I pray that the audience is able to seek help and support.
And as we continue in prayer, Father God, dear Lord and Heavenly Father, I praise you and I thank you, Father God, for another opportunity to speak your name. I thank you and praise you, Lord God, for having a venue, oh God, where your name has the preeminence, oh God. I thank you, oh God, for the heart of Nathalie Ellis, oh God, to come today, oh God, to share with the people, oh God, issues regarding their pain, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that they will learn from what she has said today, oh God, that they will understand, oh God, that they don't have to continue to suffer in their pain and in their shame and in their iniquities and in their problems, oh God, and in their trauma, oh God, but that you have made a way for them, oh God, from pain to peace. I thank you, oh God, for Miss Ellis, oh God. I speak life over her this day, oh God. I speak peace over her this day, oh God. I speak blessings over her this day, oh God. I thank you, oh God, for how she has made a commitment, oh God, to help the people, oh God, to help the people move from pain to peace, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that you will bless her business. I thank you, oh God, that you will increase her favor. I thank you, oh God, that you will increase her anointing, oh God, to set the captives free, oh God, but that you have made a way, oh God, for them to be healed in their emotions, oh God, just as you have made a way, oh God, for them to be healed physically, oh God. I thank you, oh God. All things concerning her are in your hands. I just commit her, her business, her life, her plans, her dreams, her destiny, and even her anointing into your hands. In the name of your Son, I pray, oh God. I also, oh God, continue to lift up those in the audience today, oh God, who are hurting, oh God. You know the secret pains that people have, oh God, that they are even afraid to speak or to utter, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that you will breathe the breath of life on them, oh God, right in the midst of their pain, right in the midst of those secret things, oh God, that are causing them to be distressed and to be woeful and to be undone, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that it is the healing of your spirit, oh God, in their spirit, oh God, that is going to execute the change for them, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that you will help people to understand, oh God, that they don't need to be ashamed about having mental health issues, oh God, because when one finds freedom in their mental health, oh God, the freedom of their spirit will follow, oh God, and then they will be able to soar. I thank you, oh God, that they will see this pain and this trauma and this sadness, oh God, as an opportunity, oh God, to get to know you in a real and a living and an intimate way, oh God, that those things that the world and life and the enemy is meant for evil, oh God, you, oh God, have meant for good, that it will be these very things that are the vehicle, oh God, not only to catapult them from pain into peace, oh God, but to catapult them into the destiny, oh God, that you have had for them from the foundation of the universe. I worship you today. I praise you today, oh God, for your wisdom is beyond knowing, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that nothing is over until you say it's over, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that you are the first and the last and the beginning and the end, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that in you we live and move and have our being, oh God. I thank you, oh God, that your grace and your mercy are real to us today, oh God, and that if we bring anything to you, oh God, you will do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, oh God. I just thank you. I praise you. I worship you. I adore you, oh God, for your beneficence and your kindness, oh God. I commit all things concerning these people, this station, myself, oh God, those in the listening audience, oh God. I commit all things concerning you and concerning us into your hands in the name of your Son, whom I adore, even with my heart and my life. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen.
You have been listening to Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing, and I am your host, Dr. Denise Johnson. And this show will be available to you to listen to on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Spiritual Principles for Emotional Healing, because I am believing God that as you repeatedly listen to these prayers, He will heal your brokenness the same way He has used these prayers to minister to my brokenness. Also, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, some of my earlier shows are dedicated to discussing the specific principles God uses in emotional healing, like the power of love, emotional intimacy, empowerment through suffering, and healing through words. There are also past shows about depression and trauma. And if you have extra time, I would direct you to my shows Stigma and Denial and Dating with Stigma and Denial. because these shows look at our resistance to dealing with our emotional issues in a way that is fun and fanciful. As always, it is my joy and honor to have you with me every time you tune in. And lastly, I want you to always remember, where your spirit leads, your emotions, power, and destiny will follow.